12:31 p.m. Please stand for the pledge. Going on to roll call. President Fish.
Here.
Vice President Pellegrino. Here. Treasurer Wu.
Here.
Secretary Wadsworth.
Here.
Director of Community Outreach.
Here.
Director of Development.
Here.
Director of PR.
Here.
Senator Morrell.
Here.
Senator Self.
Here.
Senator Fees.
Here.
Senator Doherty, excused. Senator DeHaab. Senator Hyde is excused. Our advisor. CFB. Wildcat Media. The Factory Times. Excused. Web. Wildcat Esports. SAC Rep excused. And ResLife. Going on to the approval of minutes of April 28th, 2022. Do we have any discussion for these minutes? Seeing none, we'll be going on to voting. Does anyone oppose unanimous consent to the minutes? Seeing none, that passes 4-0-0. We have no announcements, no guest speakers. On to Exec Reports. Our president.
Good afternoon, everyone. So before I begin, for the first years in the audience, this meeting may seem frightening or confusing. If at any point you'd like to speak or ask a question about what's going on, just please come to the front mic and wait until you're called on and you'll have a chance to question us. So, I hope everybody enjoyed their breaks and are as happy as possible to be back. I have some important announcements and updates that happened over the summer and towards the end of last semester. So first, I'd like to congratulate Ali Chun, Michael Casey, Jack Longile, and Tasnia Zoha on their SUNY SA election wins as President, Vice President, Treasurer, and Secretary respectively. If you would like to contact them, please let me know and I can send you their contact information. For those of you who don't know, SUNY SA oversees all 64 colleges within the SUNY system. So think of SUNY Poly as just one state among the 63 other states, and SUNY SA as the federal government. I would also like to announce that I've been elected as the doctoral granting institution's undergraduate representative for SUNY SA. I'll be responsible for giving updates to DGI schools about SUNY SA and will hopefully be able to represent our campus as we fall under this category. I'd also like to reintroduce Megan Lennon as our new SGU advisor and introduce Ben as another new member joining as the assistant director for the Center of Student Involvement office. As we welcome in some new people, we're also saying goodbye to Sherry as she's moved offices to Aux Services, and we're currently in talks of finding a new office manager. Over the summer, the executive board worked hard on several different projects. We created an SGU pamphlet to better advertise SGU, organizations, and clubs. We started to work on a training document for senators to help better train them for this year. And we also worked with the orientation team to promote student activities and involvement on campus and welcome the new students. I'll let Vice President Pellegrino talk about this a bit more, but the Senate, Cabinet, and org head positions are live today, so please tell friends to check out the posters on campus if they're interested. With this said, I'm excited to start the new academic year, and I can't wait to work with each and every one of you. I yield.
Going on to the VP report. Hi all, welcome back to the first meeting of the fall semester, and it's great to see you all again. This report, if not all of the majority, is the email that you got from the first day of the semester from me. For senators from the previous academic year, unless you're no longer attending campus, you must serve until the election period is concluded. This means for current senators, September 29th will be the last meeting unless re-elected or if the election period becomes extended. As mentioned, Senate elections are up, so if you're interested in becoming and continuing as a senator, please view the election packet for all information. As well as he stated, we have three different roles open. We have the Factory Times as well as Wildcat Media up for org head elections, and as well as executive position? A cabinet.
Oh, cabinet. Our cabinet positions that are open are all of them. So the Chief of Staff, Director of Public Relations, Director of Community Outreach, Director of Development, and the Director of DEI.
And as that's stated, and also College Council, which will be included on the election page. So, aside from that, for this year, the election tables are going to be a little different for polling hours. So, if any of you have been here for a while, you know how the referral system works. This was unavailable last semester as I was a candidate in the election, so I wasn't able to see any parts of the election. Therefore, I couldn't see the referral page. So, the referral page will allow you to skip sitting at the polling station during your assigned time. You'll need 10 members to refer you, as you'll be waived from having to sit there for 2 hours. If you have any questions, please respond to the email that I'll be sending out after this. And please, the orgs, reach out to all your members with this, as I don't have a current updated roster, so I'll only send it to the org heads, and then you can send it from there. And I yield to the treasurer.
Hello, hello, hello. I hope you had a great summer with whatever you've done. I'm just glad that y'all made it back safely. Hopefully the start of the semester isn't too daunting to most of you. I hope y'all are ready for another semester. I am excited to hear great beneficial topics being discussed on this table this year, and good luck to all of you on the upcoming days. I yield.
On to our secretary.
Hi everyone. I hope everyone is having a great week back and settling well into the new semester. I spent the summer catching up and updating everything on Engage and the Google Drive. Bear with me while I learn the role and the ins and outs of everything. I'm excited to get started and see where we all go this semester. I yield.
There is no chief of staff. On to our director of public relations. On to director of community outreach.
No report other than just I hope everyone had a good summer, and I look forward to working with all of you and all the great things we'll accomplish together.
On to director of development.
No report.
Skipping down to our advisor.
Welcome back. Glad to have you here. I'm glad to be in this role. Very excited. Just really want to make sure that the club and org fair signups are happening. So if you want to get your table out there, please see us so we can make sure we have enough tables. That's my big announcement for this coming week. But the door is always open to CSI. For Ben and I think I can speak for Ben to say the door is open. We want to hear your ideas, your complaints, the issues, and see how we can work on them together. Student advocacy is probably going to be the top priority out of our office of how do we advocate for you and what you need here at SUNY Poly. Thanks. I yield.
Going on to Chief Justice.
No report other than I look forward to working with all of you.
For committee reports, technically committees have been reset, so there are no committee heads until the election is over, so we're going to be skipping that for now. On to org reports. Webb.
Hello everyone. Webb has started off strong this semester, both first year casino night and glow in the dark game night, having a successful showing. For upcoming events, we will have free bowling Thursdays starting tonight at AMF Panorama Lanes at 10 p.m. It will go on until 1 a.m. And a live performance from comedy hypnotist Nadim Manuel at 7 p.m. Friday in the Student Center NPR. And for next week, we will have a live performance by comedian James McCartney, same time and location as Nadine on Thursday, September 8th, and Tag Your Bag in the NPR as well at 7 on Friday, September 9th. I yield.
DFB.
Yeah. Anyway, first weekend, nothing's on fire. I yield.
All right. On to Wildcat Media.
Oh, so I've had a few new faces express interest, so looking forward to meeting them on the 6th. So tell them about what we do. Yeah.
And on to Wildcat Esports.
Good morning, everyone. It is great to be back. We have a lot of plans in store this semester, and we are already off to a great start. September 6th through the 17th, we will be conducting tryouts, with some of the tryouts being in person. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us through email at wildcatesports@sunypoly.edu or through our Discord server. On September 7th will be our first Smash Weekly of the semester. No registration is required for this event, so come into the Student Center NPR starting at 7 p.m. to join in on the fun. The following Friday, on September 9th, we will be having our first mystery tournament, a new event in WCE Every other week, we will be holding a tournament with an unknown game, which will not be revealed until the night of. Hints will be given out by officers and our socials leading up to the event, but you won't truly know until it is time to play. Our first hint of our upcoming mystery tournament was posted on Engage in the event's description. I'll end this report with the second hint for the game. Squidward. I yield.
Concluding all reports, we'll be moving on to old business, Bill 2122-38, Pro Tem fees.
Motion to accept Bill number 2122-38.
Do we have a second? Senator Morrell?
We, the members of student government at Utica at SUNY Poly, as represented in the Senate, do enact as follows. The purpose of this bill is to update the financial policy. I yield.
Do we have any discussion? Our treasurer?
I'd like to entertain a motion to table this indefinitely.
Do we have a second? Oh, do we have so moved? Senator Self, do we have a second? Pro Tem fees? This going on to discussion for tabling this indefinitely. Pro Tem fees.
I think I spoke with you, Treasurer Wu, about this previously, but could we just have a brief explanation as to why we're tabling this indefinitely? I yield.
The changes weren't made, and I think it would be best if we just postpone it for a year, as currently we could just still stick with financial policy, the 8th edition, but all the bills that's been passed will still be in effect. I yield.
Do we have any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll be going on to voting. All those in favor of tabling this bill indefinitely, please raise your hand. All those against? And all those who abstain. With that, that passes 4-0-0. Continuing on from there, we'll be going on to new business, Bill 2222-01. Senator Morrell.
Bill number 2223-01, additions to the Student Government Utica Policies, Procedures, Conduct, Appearance, and Standards.
Do we have a second? Pro Tem fees?
We, the Senate of the SUNY Poly Student Government at Utica, do enact as follows. The purpose of this bill is to create office rules and etiquette sections. I yield.
Do we have any discussion for this bill? Pro Tem fees?
Okay, so setting the bar for our student government, I think, is really important, especially for behavior within our office. That's where people come to listen to us. It's where people come to advise with us. It's where people come to give their complaints. And, you know, if we're in there kind of acting, for lack of better terms, like, you know, I guess college students, you know, not acting professional in there, obviously that doesn't set a great example for us. I think the only thing in this that you know, sets me off a little bit as that could be problematic in the future is the bullet 21.11.2. It says legitimate purpose stated in 21.11.1 is not up for discretion. The individuals shall be productively meeting, working on SGU or affiliated work benefiting SGU, the organizations or the clubs. I think there is discretion in that because I think team building is also really important for the Senate, being in there, even if you're just, you know, having a good time with that, that's team building, you know what I mean? As long as you're doing it appropriately, I think that is totally acceptable. And I think there is discretion there, and I think there is possibility for abuse of power there from superiors. Not that anybody here would abuse their powers, but future people, you know, we don't know who's going to be in these offices later, and I fear an abuse of power with that. I yield to the president.
All right. So, 2 meetings with lawyers, 4 meetings with Katie in the Title IX office, 2 meetings with Jennifer Adams and the Assistant Vice President for Student Affairs, a countless number of meetings with Jennifer George, and the most frightening of all, meetings with the President of the college and the Vice President of Student Affairs about behavior with the student government and its organizations. These are meetings that no president wants to have, and for sure what I wasn't expecting when I joined. I will completely take some of the responsibility for some of our actions last year, but we need to, as a group, realize that we all played a role in the toxic and just downright disgusting decisions, discussions, and behaviors last year. This is where the origins of the bill come from. As I'm already beginning to hear some and see some toxicity from some members about myself, Sean, Dan, Bailey, and even other members. I would love to hear the opinions of everybody here today to make this policy the best it can be, and would love everybody's input as it affects everyone. And we should all be a part of this bill. I'm open to all opinions and feedback from this is unnecessary to X, Y, and Z needs to be changed or added, and I hope you feel comfortable enough to speak your opinions. I yield.
Going on from there, do we have any further discussion? Senator Self.
So currently I see that on there it says 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. I know not everyone's in the office all the time currently, and we don't have a secretary at the front. Will that be still in effect, or will that take a full effect once we have someone up front constantly sitting there? I yield to the president.
So the idea was from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. The office would be open to the public. Obviously, those who have card access, so senators, directors, e-board, they would have that the entire during the building hours. So from 8 till 11 or 12, I think it is. And then for on Senator Fees' point, 21.11.1 or 21.11.2 for the legitimate purpose, that stood for those without key card access. So obviously as senators, if you did want to play like Uno or like play some kind of team building game, that would be as beneficial to SGU as your team building. That's for if, let's say I'm not in the student government, I come in, I can't hang out, I can't have dinner there, I can't do homework, I have to be going to a meeting, going to something public, or trying to figure out if I'm interested in the student government or not. I yield to Pro Tem Fees.
It's a great idea to have in there, having not necessarily a code of conduct, but how other students should be treating that office. I think that's great. But I think that the way it's stated, with individuals shall be productively meeting and working on SGU or affiliated work that benefits, blah, blah, blah. It's a little vague, and I think that could be applied to senators in the future. My worry is we're going to have, someone in the future who's on the exec board and, it misinterprets that a little bit, and then we have people where it becomes a struggle, to be in the office. So I would like to make a motion to change individuals, or actually, no, I'm not going to make a motion. I would like to basically discuss with other senators and hear how we could change that. I'm thinking about changing individuals to non-SGU students in there, but I would totally open to other options and how we should phrase that to make it, still open for students, but they know here's what our office is for. I yield to
our treasurer.
I have a suggestion. Instead of SGU members, we could just put non-stipended members, as most stipended members do have access to that office. I yield.
Senator Moore?
It will also affect the org suite on top of the central main SGU offices. I yield.
Our president.
As it stands right now, it only affects the SGU offices, but I think it should affect the org offices as well. I yield.
Do we have any further discussion? On to Chief Justice.
To my understanding of the bill, after discussing a little bit with the president and also just hearing the section that you're referencing, Pro Temp Fees, the way I interpreted it as is making the SGU lounge a space where you can't just hang around, I guess. Not saying that you have to be doing work 100% of the time, but it's the intention of the space versus like the actual like semantics of the actions there. So if you're playing Uno with a bunch of senators, if that is the dominant action or the dominant reason for being in the lounge, I feel like that would kind of fall into that place. But if you are spending time there talking to people and you decide you want to play a game of Uno, I wouldn't see why that would conflict. So maybe we can work, or you guys can work because I can't do anything. You guys can work with the wording of that to kind of, I yield.
Do we have any further discussion? Pro Tem Fees.
I liked what Treasurer Wu said with non-stipended members, because then, you're not just saying individuals, you're labeling a certain person, because obviously, stipended members, that is our privilege. That office is our privilege. We were elected, and that is our privileged office. And we like to have those privileges. So I would like to make a motion to change under bullet 21.11.2. I would like that to state, legitimate purpose stated in 21.11.1 is not up for discretion. Non-stipended individuals shall be productively meeting and working on SGU or affiliated work that benefits SGU, the organizations, and or the clubs. I yield.
Do we have a second? Senator Self. Going on to discussion of the motion. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, does anyone oppose unanimous consent to the motion? Seeing none, that passes 4-0-0. Going on to discussion for the bill itself. Do we have any further discussion? Pro Tem Fees.
I yield to Logan. He raised his hand first. Utah, go.
Will probably occur. This will be coming back next week, if I remember correctly, though part of my memory, I kind of got swamped with working as a inspector over the summer. I believe this is really good because there was times that it kind of did get out of hand in the office, and I don't remember if anyone had stopped it one time. I remember leaving one day and it was just out of hand inside the office. But I believe this is a good bring around for just trying to make it more professional looking and more professional just atmosphere within there. And also, when students come in and they see just people fooling around or just saying whatever they want, it's just like, is this really the SGU of SUNY Poly? Other than that, I believe this is really good, minus some, maybe we got some changes that will be appearing probably within this. I yield.
Chief Justice.
Please correct me. I'm very new to this, guys. This is super intense. I didn't even imagine it being up here. I wanted to ask if it says anywhere in this bill specifically who would be enforcing this policy, or is this something where we would be holding all of our, like everybody would be holding each other accountable? I yield to. Can I yield to somebody, or do I just? Can I yield to the president?
Are you gonna? Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure. So that's a good point. I didn't really think about who would be enforcing this, but technically this would be under the code of conduct. So your immediate supervisor would be giving out strikes and warnings. I yield to. I'll yield to the floor.
Chief Justice.
To my understanding, this would be an instance if somebody violated this, you would be able to speak to our advisor, and would you have to put in a bill to potentially strike them? Like, what is the... I understand the intention of the bill, but what is the follow-up to this? I yield.
Pro Tem Fees.
That was one of my concerns as well, because, like, you know, obviously if we have, you know, 3 senators in the office and they're acting totally out of hand, not that anybody here would do this, I love you all, we have them totally acting out of hand, who's going to hold them accountable? Obviously themselves or not, but like if we don't have the president in there to sort of say, you guys gotta stop, or I'm going to give you a strike. Sorry, my earrings are hitting the mic. You know, you gotta stop, or I'm going to have to give you a formal warning and or a strike. Who holds them accountable? I yield to President Fish.
So I think these are really good points that I didn't think about. So I think once we get an office manager, I think that responsibility would lay partially on them as they're being there. But after hours, I truthfully don't know. I think that's something that we should definitely discuss. For Chief Justice Tabor's point, the process of giving out strikes is if I was being erratic or inappropriate, the senators would write a resolution to strike me, or the E-board would do it privately. But if anybody else was under the E-board, we would be able to hand out those strikes respectively. I'll yield to Pro Tem Fees.
So after hours, I find a problem with, because if there's no one up there to hold people accountable, you know, obviously that's an issue. And I also think peer pressure is an issue. You may not be acting out, but your friends may be acting totally inappropriate, and that makes you uncomfortable. I don't want to put any of the senators in a position where they must feel they have to speak up to your friends. I'm thinking, what if we had an anonymous tip report on a Google form or something? So say I'm there and I have 3 senators around me that are acting totally inappropriate, and I feel uncomfortable to, you know, approach them and say that's inappropriate behavior. I'm wondering if we could have an anonymous Google form or a tip box where we could report that to say either Megan or the president, and if there's more than 5 reports in a box, then we could talk to the individual or something like that. Obviously one report, you know, we can't really hold weight, but if we have multiple reports from multiple different people, that holds weight. I yield.
Our Secretary.
So I think that you all are making really good points. I want to remind everybody, though, that we're student leaders. We need to be holding each other accountable, and we need to have accountability for ourselves. So when we're in the office, we need to understand what we're doing and what our actions are. So we need to have an understanding of how we should behave in the office. So yeah, is it okay for us to play Uno as senators, as team building? Yes, but we need to understand our limits in the office and understand how to behave. So I think that the tip box is a great idea, but I think that we also need to be able to hold ourselves and our peers accountable. I yield.
Our advisor.
It says the purpose of this bill is to create the office rules and etiquette sections, correct? So you have not, like, that needs to still be established. I think the conversation is ongoing, right? I think that there needs to be some clear, something that's kind of posted, if you will, too. But I don't think that just your one summary under 2112.0 and 2112 are probably enough for someone to be like, oh, well, I don't look at that as harassment, so that's not harassment. Right, you're not defining what those are, and you're not going to be able to catch every situation. But I think this bill is just allowing this group to have an ongoing kind of conversation the next couple of weeks about what are those rules that are going to go in there, because this, you have the abuse of any kind, drama, gossip, but you might want to define those a little bit more. But that bill is giving you the permission, right, to do so, to create those. And I think with that kind of goes along, what do hours look like? Like when at 5 o'clock, who is actually asking people to leave maybe is part of that process as well, to eliminate that. What's the purpose of them being there past 5? We can work together with the CSI office as well about some building manager positions we're looking at too that might help that. But I do think that go back to your first line, you still have to create what that looks like in that structure. I yield.
On to our president.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to our advisor. I think so. I'm trying to think of what I was going to say. I apologize. Back to Pro Tem Fees' point about the anonymous poll. This was something that I was going to do, and then we decided it probably wasn't a great idea, just because there's probably going to be information that's pretty sensitive on there, or could be sensitive. Hopefully it's not, but that could be very sensitive. And if it happened that it was just sitting there for a couple of months because we just forgot to look at it or something, that would then be on us. So the thought would be is you would still anonymously just email us or come to us in person and discuss that. But instead of the forum, I'll yield to the floor.
Pro Tem Fees.
You bring up good points. Obviously, if something really bad happens in the office, we don't want to neglect that. I'm wondering if we could put in here methods of reporting. So, if, we wanted to report directly to the president, you say that, or to the advisor, just we have somewhere to go, because a new SGU member may not know where to go. It may seem obvious to us, but it may not be obvious to other people entering. So maybe under 2112.0, we think about adding in, reports of inappropriate behavior may be made to the advisor and or the SGU president of the time. I yield the floor to any sort of opinions on that.
Our president.
So I'll entertain that motion for you.
Do we have a second? Senator Morrell. Going on to discussion for the motion. Do we have any discussion? Treasurer Wu.
I do want to let you guys know that this is a new business. You guys have time to think over it. So even if this motion doesn't pass, you still have time to think over it for a week. I yield.
Do we have any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll be going on to voting. Does anyone oppose unanimous consent to the motion itself? Seeing none, that passes 4-0-0. Going back onto the bill, do we have any discussion? Pro Tem Fees.
I think Treasurer Wu brings up a really good point. We have, other important stuff to get to on the table. And, getting this back next week, we have time to think about it. I may decide to meet with other people, other senators who are still here, the executive board, to talk more about this. I think this bill has a really great framework, for making the house that is SGU more approachable and more appropriate for students and more accessible to students. But I think there's some things in here that we need to speak about. I think it's a great structure, a great foundation, but I think there still needs to be conversation. So I urge you all to end discussion on this and move on to our next order of business. I yield.
Do we have any further discussion on the bill? Seeing none, that concludes business on 222301. Going on to Bill 222301, 02. Senator Self.
Bill 2223-02.
Do we have a second? Pro Tem Fees.
The purpose of this bill, Policies and Procedures Amendment, Article 21, Conduct, Appearance, and Standards. The purpose of this bill is to amend 21.5.1 and 21.5.2. The purpose of this bill is to amend Article 21, Conduct, Appearance, and Standards. Excuse me. 21.5.1 and 21.5.2. The purpose of this bill is to add gender-neutral prefixes. Excuse me. I yield.
Do we have any further discussion? Pro Tem Fees.
It was brought up previously of whether or not adding gender-neutral prefixes would be under policies and procedures or house rules. I say policies and procedures because I'm a policy gal. You know, if anybody knows me outside of here, I'm able to go and just say, hey, that's under this policy because I'm a weirdo like that. But I could totally see how this falls under house rules. I just would like other people to weigh in on that. I yield.
Our president.
So I'm going to change the purpose of the bill a little bit. So I'm going to explain my motion and then make it. So instead of making this just to affect Article XXI, I want to make, or 21, I'm going to make it the entire policies and procedures. So then if there's any he, him, or her, hers language in there, or any gendered language in there, it'll be changed to they, them. So I'd like to entertain the motion to change the first bullet in purpose to the purpose of this bill is to amend the SGU policies and procedures to remove all gendered prefixes and to replace them with they, them, or non-gendered words. I yield.
Do we have a so moved? Pro Tem Fees. Do we have a second? Senator Morrell. Do we have any discussion? Pro Tem Fees.
Wait, to remove all gendered pronouns? Because I think having all options, he, him, she, her, and gender neutral, instead of just having they, them, because we want to be inclusive to all people. So I would like to talk about that a little bit and yield back to the president as to why we would be removing all gender prefixes and just having they, them. I yield to the president.
I think, so my purpose was, and I couldn't find any, but just in case I forgot or misoverlooked it, was if it says in the policies and procedures, he or she should not do that. That was my intent. Instead, it should say they should not do X, Y, Z. I'll yield.
Chief Justice.
Pro Tem Fees. To your point, they and them don't necessarily have to just be gender neutral. It can be in reference to any person. And I wanted to just am I able to discuss, or do I have to just go around? Oh, okay, awesome. As somebody who uses they them pronouns, my pronouns are he they. I believe a bill like this is essential. And I know how difficult my journey has been accepting that part of my identity, and having more support here and making it more of a normal will help the students. I yield.
Do we have any further discussion? Senator Morrell.
Pro Tem Fees' point, I think it's more that instead of just replacing all instances of like Mr. or Madam with mix, we keep all three, but in any instance of his or hers or him or her in passive semantics in the actual policies and procedures, then that could be changed to they. Just to clarify, I yield.
Pro Tem Fees.
Understood the motion. I thought we were doing something different than what was stated there. That was a misunderstanding on my point. Now that I fully understand, I'm totally on board with that. That's how I use my own language. I yield. I just want to make that clear.
Do we have any further discussion for the motion? Seeing none, we'll be going on to voting. Does anyone oppose unanimous consent to the motion? Seeing none, that passes 4-0-0. Going back on a discussion of the bill. Pro Tem Fees.
You know, my goal this year, if re-elected, is to make SGU accessible to all students, not just us who understand it. Because when I came in here, I was very confused and I felt very left out of this circle. By adding these titles, you're opening this up to many more people who don't go by your traditional she, her, they, that, or she, her, he, him, his. You know, you're opening up to all orientations of, you know, gender, because gender is a huge spectrum that we never really think about, especially if you are a cisgendered person. So I think this works in a great way to open up SGU to people of all walks of life, and that's something that I want to just put out there. You know, adding these makes us more accessible. I yield.
Do we have any further discussion? Seeing none, that concludes discussion of Bill 222302. Going on to Resolution 222301. Pro Tem Fees.
Accept Senate Resolution number 2223-01.
Do we have a second? Senator Morrell?
We, the Senate of SUNY Poly Student Government at Utica, do hereby resolve the purpose of this resolution is to allocate funds to support Wildcat Weekend, whereas Wildcat Weekend is an event that facility, staff, administrators, and alumni can participate in, and the funds will be used to support a firework event show during Wildcat Weekend. Therefore, be it enacted. The transferring of $1,000 from line 999 from the SGU budget and to the SUNY Poly Foundation for the purpose of supporting Wildcat Weekend, and therefore be it resolved. Be it resolved, the student government at Utica will support Wildcat Weekend. I yield.
Do we have any discussion? President Fish?
I had a lot of time over the summer. Could you guys tell? So this resolution, Mike Aiello, if you don't know him, he works in the alumni office. I'm not 100% sure his position. I'm sorry, Mike. But he came asking for us to fund an amount. He mentioned $1,000 from a line to support the fireworks. So I wrote this up and put it on the table. I yield.
Pro Tem Fees.
Is obviously this $1,000 is not covering the whole of the firework display. So, you know, where is that other money coming from? Obviously, we're not the only ones supporting that. Who else is supporting this? I yield.
President Fish.
That'll come from the Alumni Association. I yield.
Senator Self.
I'll say this. The pro temp beat me to my own question. Right there, I had that coming up, but I don't know if everyone's like up to date on events going on. Does anyone know when this is going on? Because personally, I don't know because I don't have time to really check everything. I yield.
Pro Tem Fees.
The 16th through the 18th. It's basically just an alumni event, or not alumni, but it's an event for pretty much all SUNY Poly students, previous and current, to go and have fun and basically, you know, see each other again. I guess my concern is, where did the $1,000 come from as a figure? Is this, the alumni office only had $1,500 to give and they needed that from somewhere else? Or, is that just kind of a number that they pulled? So I'm curious as to where $1,000 came from in that estimate. I yield.
Senator Self, it's your turn. Gotcha. Our president.
I'm not 100% sure. When I received the email, that's just the amount that they asked. I'll yield to our advisor.
And it's my understanding that $1,000 is basically the inflation or the rise in cost that the fireworks are basically over what it was in the past with everything going on. I know that's exactly the $1,000, but they have increased in cost since previous years. And so that was what they were given. So the quote was off what they had budgeted for originally for fireworks.
Do we have any further discussion for the resolution? Pro Tem Fees.
Do we have anyone that we can speak to from the alumni office that could possibly come in and talk about this a little more? I yield.
President.
Not at this time, no. But the contact would have been Mike Aiello or Andrea Legata. I yield.
Is there any further discussion for the resolution? Senator Morrell.
And giving $1,000 for the fireworks, since it's something that everyone can enjoy, not just the Alumni Foundation. So, I don't know, I'm just questioning the necessity for an alumni representative to speak on this. I yield.
Senator Self.
Yeah, when I saw the 1,000 and then I looked at the receipt on here, seeing the 2,500, it brought back to idea. I was talking to someone that used to travel, go to fireworks shows, and they would mention the price on the fireworks. And seeing the price here, I was like, 2,500. There's going to be a lot. But then when our advisor had mentioned inflation, that brought that back in my mind. I'm like, oh yes, inflation's still here. That does make prices go have a little fun. It's never fun to have to pay more than you want, but with everything going on, we can't control that. I yield.
Do we have any further discussion? Treasurer Wu?
If most of you aren't comfortable with passing this bill without having a representative to speaking, it is okay to table it to next week. I yield.
Do we have any further discussion? Seeing none, as this is a resolution, we'll be voting on it this meeting. All those in favor of passing this resolution, please raise your hand. All those against? And all those who abstain. With that, this passes 4-0-0. That concludes discussion of Resolution 22-2301. Going on to Bill 22-2303, Pro Tem fees.
Motion to accept Senate Bill number 2223-03, Student Activity Fee Policy Update. I yield.
Do we have a second? Senator Morrell.
We, the members of the student government at Utica of SUNY Poly, as represented in the Senate, do enact as follows. The purpose of this bill is to update the SAF waiver policy. The current policy is not working as intended. I yield.
Do we have any discussion for the bill? Pro Tem fees.
Okay, so I do know people who are, totally online that are undergrad students. And that's the main thing that we're changing here is we're changing the SAF policy so that it's, mandatory for undergraduates and then graduates may opt out. I guess my concern is I know undergraduate students who are fully online and live pretty far away and they can't afford to be on campus. If they're not utilizing what's in their student activities fees, why would they have to pay that? Like, I know personally, if I lived 50 miles away from campus and I was fully online and I'd never go to an event here, I'd be like, why am I paying $150 for things I'm never going to use? Which I understand that we need to support ourselves here, but I think if we just put more restrictions on it instead of just saying you have to pay for this, I think that might be a little better, especially for students who have financial difficulties. I yield.
Wildcat Esports.
This actually just came up not too long ago, so I could actually speak up about this. We still have interest with players who want to play for us remotely. So because of that, if they paid their student activities fees, we have to honor it, and we have to, see their interest, see what they do, tryouts, what have you. So as long as they pay their student activities fees, and we have remote events or online events, we can't deny them. So that's why I say we shouldn't really exclude the remote undergraduate students, because we definitely still have interest on online events for either remote people or even people in the Albany campus. I yield.
Do we have any further discussion? Chief Justice.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is an optional thing. This isn't like you have to. So if somebody is fully remote, in Pro Tem Feast's case, they could choose to opt out. I'm asked that is a question. I didn't read through it. I got the agenda 5 minutes ago. In reference to Pro Tem Feast's point that if you were fully remote and you had no intentions on going to the student activities, or you would opt out of it. But in reference to the org head of Wildcat Esports, if you were partaking in it, you wouldn't opt out. Is that a correct assumption of the bill? I yield.
Treasurer Wu.
Repeat that question, please. I yield to Chief Tabor.
Is this an optional thing? So it's not saying that if you're, however... Is this something somebody can opt into like you would your parking pass? So, for example, I fill out a form to not have to use a parking pass because I don't have a car. Would this be creating a form that made it optional to pay the student activity fee if you? I yield.
Treasurer Wu.
So the student activities fee is a mandatory fee. We all charge students equally $125 per semester. What this is basically doing is the in-play student activities fee policy is basically saying that all students who live more than 50 miles away and they're all fully online can waive it, but at the same time, it's not really DEI of it, since we have students on campus who aren't really utilizing these activities also. So we might as well just make it mandatory for all undergraduates. And with the increasing alarming rate of students requesting for the fee waiver that are actually online and away, going forward, the future fiscal year budgets would be cut further to accommodate for these, and I just don't think it would be fair for students who are actually using them. And there's like a lot of things going on behind the background. I have reached out to a few SUNY schools. They don't have any SAF waiver for undergrad, as those are mandatory. They do have something in place for grad students, and they're all SUNY schools. I yield.
President Fish.
Just a quick point of clarification. This doesn't affect the Albany campus. USGA and GSGA will affect the Albany campus. I yield.
Senator Morrell.
So after that clarification that it will be mandatory for undergraduates and graduate students can opt out, that is what this is saying. Because in the bullet that says to replace exemptions for this fee we considered for students admitted to programs 100% online who live more than 50 miles away from campus from the website, and then replace that with this fee is mandatory for and graduate students may opt out. The wording of that is kind of confusing, so like to quell any kind of issue that might come up with that, I'd like to motion to change that, the highlighted section, to this fee is mandatory for graduate students, comma, and graduate students may opt out. Because as it stands, it kind of sounds like this fee is mandatory for undergraduate and graduate students may opt out. So, yeah, I'd like to make that motion. I yield.
Pro Tem Fees. Is there any discussion for the motion? Treasurer Wu.
That it kind of seems redundant. I recommend that this fee, graduate students may opt out of this fee to make it shorter and simple and straight to the point. I yield.
Do we have any discussion? Senator Morrell.
I'd like to amend the motion to make the highlighted section say this fee is, actually no, graduate students may opt out of this fee. Period.
Do we have a second for the amendment? Pro Tem Fees. Do we have any discussion for the amendment? Seeing none. Does anyone oppose unanimous consent to the amendment? Seeing none. Oh. Seeing opposition, we'll be going on to voting. All those in favor? All those who oppose? And all those who abstain. With that, this amendment passes 3-0-1. Continuing on to the motion itself, do we have any discussion for the motion? Seeing none, we'll be going on to voting. Does anyone oppose unanimous consent to the motion? Seeing opposition, we'll be going on to voting. All those in favor of the motion? All those who oppose? And all those who abstain. With that, the motion passes 3-0-1. Going back on the discussion of Bill 22-2303, do we have any discussion? Pro Tem Fees.
Okay, so I think for the majority of undergrads who are fully online and live more than 50 miles away, I'm assuming that's to save money. You know what I mean? You don't want to pay to, have a parking pass. You don't want to have to pay to, live on campus and have a meal plan. Those are expensive. I mean, I don't live on campus because I can't afford it. I can't afford the loans. You know what I mean? So you assume for those people, they're trying to save as much money as they can because they physically cannot afford to go to college, but they need to go to college for their careers. So, if they're not using a fee, if they're an undergrad student, is there any way that fee could be put onto like a scholarship or something like that, so that maybe if they couldn't afford it in that moment when they're paying their fees, it could go on to something, because I understand why we need these. We need to run as an organization. I understand that, but just having some way to make it more affordable for those students, I guess. I yield to our treasurer.
Knowledge, there are scholarships out there. If they're not applying for the scholarship themselves to cover this fee, that's on them. And also, I know this sounds really rude, but we can't really make case-by-case basis if they are in financial need, as that would be considered favoritism to one's circumstances. And we did reach out to financial aid to see if they want to be in the process of this. Last year, actually 2 years ago, when the former treasurer Gabby Sordo was part of this whole process, they want a hands-off approach. They don't really want to be involved with sharing students' information, saying if they are in a financial circumstances or not. So this is the most reasonable way to say the fee is mandatory for all students. I yield.
Do we have any further discussion for the bill? Seeing none, this will conclude discussion of new business. Going on to open forum. Do we have anything for open forum?
Some of you may have seen the changes that are being made to the food on campus, and especially the CC with its new renovations, which isn't even the beginning of what we're going to get in the CC. They're going to change the seating completely. We're going to get new tables, new chairs, new benches, new booths. If I remember the plans correctly, there is going to be kind of like a coffee house area, maybe another gaming area, and there's a lot that is going to be made in terms of progress with the food on campus. And me and Avinash worked very hard to make that happen last semester and a little bit towards the beginning of summer. And yeah, I hope you guys all enjoy the new changes that are being made to food on campus, and in the indefinite future, see how well it goes. I yield.
Going from there, our audience member.
For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Ava, known up here as Pro Temp Fees, and I would like to proudly announce that I am running for re-election this fall 2023. Thank you.
22, 23. Our audience member.
Howdy, everyone. If you don't know who I am Senator Self, or also known as Logan Self. I attended my sophomore year as a senator, and I am rerunning for election for 22-23. And I am also a commuter student, so if any commuters have any issues that are here or listen on through the videos, please feel free to reach out if I get reelected for any commuter support. Thank you. I yield.
Going on to our next audience member.
Hello everyone, my name is Nick. I was the former Director of Development, and this semester I'm running for College Council. Thank you.
On to our next audience member.
Hi, so my name is Amber Merkay. I am running for Senator this semester. I am running to represent the freshman class and the freshman EOP.
And
hello, my name is Dominic D'Argenio, and I'm running for a first-year Senate seat. I think I have a lot to bring to this committee right here. You know, I've been president of a couple organizations in the past, so I think particularly the Budget Committee and the Tech Committee could use someone like me.
And as we've seen from a few of our candidates, if you are interested in running to the Senate election or being college counsel, please remember that this going up to the mic and announcing your candidacy is mandatory to be in the election. But aside from that, I yield to the table. Pro Tem Fees.
I feel like last year I didn't make this, as known. I'm a resource for everybody in this audience and everybody on campus, exec boards, Senate, non-stipended members, any of our org heads, I'm here to advocate for you. That's my job. My job is to sit here and fight for the students here. So if anybody has any questions or concerns about anything on campus, even if it's just you need someone to talk to and you don't know who to go to, please, I'm all ears. Obviously, I'm not the only one up here that can do this, but like, I am all ears. I would love to hear from students about questions, concerns, or even if you just want to have down, like sit down and have like coffee, I'm so down with that. So just know I'm a resource, and I just want to make that known. I yield.
Senator Self.
As tradition of last year, I always usually brought a quote to the end of the meetings or an open forum. And this year, to start everyone off with a quote I found just now, does not even say who it's from, which kind of ironically happened a lot last semester. Get up every morning and remind yourself, I can do this. This switching from high school to college can be a little rough, but you guys are here. Prove yourselves. Prove it. You know you can do it. I took a test for a black belt in martial arts. I had the times where I was just like, I can't do this. I can't. It comes from yourself now. You must be able to push it, because once you show you can push it, you know you got some limits you can overcome at all times. I yield.
Do we have any further discussion for open forum? Seeing none, as I do know we have a decent amount of swear-ins today, this will begin swearing. So, if you were notified that you would be swearing in today, please stamp it in the center of the horseshoe.
Oh, yeah. Bailey has it over there. For them to sign in.
Yeah.
All right. So please raise your right hand and repeat after me all at once. I, and state your name, will faithfully uphold the student government at Utica Constitution and carry out the duties of. State your organization and position to the best of my ability, and will represent the students of SUNY Poly in a fair and unbiased manner. Congratulations. If you want to come up, please sign your name, your organization, and your position.
And as those signatures are going through, do we have a motion to adjourn? So moved by Senator